There is a story, perhaps apocryphal but profoundly instructive, from the time of British rule in India. The city of Delhi had a cobra problem. Venomous snakes were a common and dangerous sight. The government, in its wisdom, devised a straightforward solution: offer a bounty for every dead cobra. The logic was simple, direct, and seemingly effective. And for a time, it was. The number of dead cobras brought to the authorities surged. The problem, it appeared, was being solved. This is first-order thinking. You see a problem, you apply a direct and immediate solution. Problem: too many cobras. Solution: pay for dead cobras. Consequence: fewer cobras. It is the most common form of human reasoning. It is linear, reactive, and satisfyingly simple. But then a strange thing began to happen. The number of cobras in the city did not seem to decrease. In fact, after the initial dip, it felt as though there were more than ever. Enterprising citizens had responded to the incentive not just by hunting existing cobras, but by breeding them. They had set up cobra farms to create a steady supply of snakes to kill for the bounty. The government's solution had created an industry. The officials eventually discovered this. Their response, again, was a first-order decision. They abruptly canceled the bounty program. The cobras, now worthless to the farmers, were released into the city. The final result of a program designed to reduce the cobra population was a city with significantly more cobras than it had at the start. This phenomenon is now known as the Cobra effect. It is a stark and memorable illustration of the catastrophic failure of first-order thinking. It is a testament to a hidden layer of reality that most people never see, a layer governed by consequences that unfold over time through feedback loops and human nature. To navigate this deeper layer requires a different kind of mind. It requires a mental model that is not an innate gift, but a cultivated skill. It is called second-order thinking. And it is, quite simply, the mental framework that separates the merely clever from the truly wise, the gambler from the grandmaster, and the fleetingly successful from the enduringly brilliant. First-order thinking is fast and easy. It looks for the immediate result. I am hungry, so I will eat this cake. The first-order consequence is pleasure and satiety. I am tired of my job, so I will quit. The first-order consequence is relief. A company's stock is soaring, so I will buy it. The first-order consequence is the thrill of participation in a rising market. This mode of thinking is a product of our evolution. For millennia, human survival depended on making rapid decisions with immediate payoffs. See a predator? Run. See a piece of fruit? Eat. The brain that could solve the immediate problem was the brain that survived. We are hardwired for the here and now. Daniel Kahneman, in his seminal work, Thinking Fast and Slow, would call this System 1 thinking: automatic, intuitive, and emotionally driven. Second-order thinking is the deliberate and strenuous engagement of System 2. It is the conscious act of overriding our natural inclination for the easy answer. It is the discipline of asking the most powerful and demanding question in the strategist's arsenal. And then what? But it is not just asking it once, it is asking it again and again, creating a chain of consequences that stretches out into the future. Second-order thinking is not just about the next move, it's about the entire game. It considers the interactions, the feedback loops, the unintended consequences. The first-order thinker who eats the cake does not consider the second-order consequence of weight gain, the third-order consequence of health problems, or the fourth-order consequence of a diminished quality of life. The first-order thinker who quits their job in a moment of frustration does not consider the second-order consequence of a depleted savings account, or the third-order consequence of a difficult job market and the stress that follows. This is not to say first-order thinking is always wrong. If you're standing in the path of an oncoming bus, the first-order decision to jump out of the way is precisely the correct one. The problem is that we live in a world of complex systems, not simple emergencies. Our careers, our finances, our relationships, and our societies are not oncoming buses. They are intricate ecosystems where every action creates ripples, and those ripples create waves. To navigate these systems with only first-order thinking is like trying to navigate the ocean in a rowboat, seeing only the surface of the water, oblivious to the currents, tides, and depths beneath. The arena where the distinction between these two modes of thought is most starkly illustrated and most brutally rewarded is in the world of investing. The legendary investor Howard Marks of Oaktree Capital Management has built his entire philosophy around this concept. For him, it is the single greatest edge an investor can possess. He writes, "First-level thinking says, it's a good company, let's buy the stock. Second-level thinking says, it's a good company, but everyone thinks it's a great company, and it's not, so the stock's overrated and overpriced. Let's sell." Let's dissect this. The first-level thinker sees a company that is innovating, growing its revenue, and receiving positive press. The obvious conclusion is to buy. It's a simple linear equation. Good company equals good investment. The market is filled with people making exact this calculation. They rush in, driving the price up, creating a sense of euphoria and confirming their own bias. The second-level thinker starts where the first-level thinker stops. They ask, and then what? The company is good, and everyone knows it. And then what? Well, because everyone knows it, their collective optimism is already reflected in the stock price. The price is not just high, it may be inflated to a point of perfection, leaving no room for error. The price is inflated. And then what? This means the risk is now extraordinarily high. Any slight misstep by the company, a quarterly earnings miss, a new competitor, could shatter the optimistic narrative and cause the price to plummet. The potential reward is now dwarfed by the potential for loss. So, the consensus is that this is a great buy. And then what? If I want to achieve superior results, I cannot think like the consensus. The only way to beat the market average is to have a view that is different from the average and also correct. Therefore, the very fact that this investment seems so obvious and popular is, to the second-level thinker, a reason for extreme caution, not enthusiasm. This is why Warren Buffett famously advises investors to be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. This is not just a clever contrarian slogan. It is the practical application of second-order thinking. Greed is a first-order emotion. It sees a price rising and wants to join the party. Fear is also a first-order emotion. It sees a price falling and wants to escape the pain. Warren Buffett's genius is in his ability to look past the immediate emotion and analyze the second-order consequences. When others are greedy, prices are high, risk is elevated, and future returns are likely to be low. That is the time for fear, for caution. When others are fearful, prices are low, assets are being sold indiscriminately, and excellent companies can be bought for less than their intrinsic value. The second-order consequence of widespread panic is opportunity. That is the time for greed, for decisive action. Think of it like a game of chess. A novice player sees a good move, one that captures an opponent's piece. This is first-order thinking. They take the piece, feel a momentary sense of victory, and then are shocked when their opponent executes a three-move sequence that checkmates their king. A grandmaster, by contrast, does not just see the board as it is. They see it as it could be 5, 10, even 15 moves into the future. They do not just think about their own move. They think about their opponent's most likely countermove, and then their own counter to that countermove. They are not playing a game of moves. They are playing a game of consequences. They understand that the board is a dynamic system. Every move, no matter how small, alters the entire strategic landscape. This deep, layered, consequential thinking is what separates the amateur from the master. This mental model extends far beyond the realm of finance. It is a universal tool for better decision-making in any complex domain. Consider public policy. The Cobra effect is a classic example, but modern life is replete with others. In the 1970s, many American cities, concerned with urban decay and a lack of low-income housing, instituted rent control policies. The first-order thinking was noble and simple. If we cap the price of rent, housing will be more affordable for the poor. The immediate consequence was that some existing tenants paid less for their apartments, a seeming victory. But what were the second and third-order consequences? The "and then what?" question was not asked with sufficient rigor. Landlords, unable to charge market rates, found that their profit margins were squeezed or eliminated. And then what? They had less money and less incentive to maintain their buildings. Properties fell into disrepair. Developers, seeing that rent control made new residential construction unprofitable, stopped building new apartment buildings. And then what? The supply of available housing began to shrink. The supply of housing shrank, and existing units deteriorated. And then what? A severe housing shortage emerged over the long term. Landlords, trying to make any profit, converted apartments into condominiums not subject to rent control, further reducing the rental supply. The very people the policy was meant to help, those seeking affordable housing, were now faced with a city with fewer, lower-quality apartments available than before the policy was enacted. A well-intentioned, first-order solution created a second-order disaster that plagues many of those same cities to this day. We see the same pattern in our personal lives. Take the pursuit of a career. A first-order thinker might choose a career path based almost exclusively on starting salary and prestige. The immediate consequence is a large paycheck and social validation. The second-order thinker asks, and then what? What is the long-term growth trajectory in this field? Will the skills I learn in this job be valuable and transferable in 10 years, or will they be automated? What is the work-life balance like? And what is the second-order consequence of chronic stress and 80-hour work weeks on my health, my relationships, and my overall happiness? Will this prestigious job lead to a golden cage where my lifestyle becomes so expensive that I can never afford to leave, even if I become miserable? The second-order thinker understands that the optimal career is not the one with the best starting conditions, but the one with the best long-term trajectory of learning, growth, and fulfillment. Or consider health and fitness. A first-order thinker, wanting to lose weight, might adopt an extreme crash diet. The immediate result is rapid weight loss, success. But the second-order thinker asks, and then what? What is this diet doing to my metabolism? Is it sustainable? What happens mentally and physically when I inevitably stop? The second-order consequences are often a damaged metabolism, a cycle of yo-yo dieting, and a worse relationship with food than before the policy was enacted. The wise approach, of course, is to focus on sustainable, long-term habits. This yields slower initial results, but leads to enduring health, a far more valuable second-order outcome. So if second-order thinking is so powerful, why is it so rare? It's because it is, by its very nature, difficult. It requires three things that humans generally try to avoid: mental effort, patience, and embracing uncertainty. It requires the effort to think beyond the obvious, to fight our own cognitive biases, our desire for simple stories, our overconfidence, our tendency to discount the future. It requires the patience to trade a small immediate reward for a much larger delayed one. And it requires the humility to accept that we cannot predict the future with certainty. Second-order thinking is not about finding the one correct future path. It is about mapping out the range of possible futures. It is about seeing the cloud of consequences, both positive and negative, that emanate from a decision and then choosing the path with the highest probability of a desirable long-term outcome. The good news is that this is a skill. It can be trained, and there are practical techniques we can use to force ourselves out of our first-order ruts. The first and most simple tool is to consciously and repeatedly ask, "And then what?" Don't stop at the first answer. Force yourself to build a chain of at least 3 to 5 consequences. Write them down. For any significant decision, whether it's taking a new job, making a large investment, or starting a difficult conversation, map out the potential chain of events. What is the immediate effect? And what is the effect of that effect and the effect of that? This simple exercise slows down your thinking and illuminates the hidden connections you would otherwise miss. A second, more powerful technique is the pre-mortem. This concept, developed by psychologist Gary Klein, is a form of structured imagination. Before you make a big decision, imagine that you are a year or two in the future, and the decision has failed catastrophically. It has been an unmitigated disaster. Now, as a team or an individual, spend time writing the history of that failure. What went wrong? What second-order effects did we fail to anticipate? Did our competitors react in an unexpected way? Did a small problem cascade into a larger one? This exercise forces you to consider the negative consequences that your natural optimism might otherwise obscure. It is a powerful antidote to wishful thinking. A third tool, favored by Charlie Munger, is inversion. Instead of asking how to achieve a good outcome, ask how you could guarantee a bad one. If you want to have a successful investment portfolio, first ask what would guarantee a terrible one. The answers are obvious. Trade frequently, pay high fees, chase hot tips, buy what you don't understand, panic sell at the bottom. By clearly identifying the path to failure, you know exactly what to avoid. This is often a more effective way of finding the correct path than aiming for success directly. To ruin your health, you would eat poorly, never exercise, and sleep very little. To have a happy life, simply invert these and do the opposite. Inversion helps you see the second-order consequences of negative behaviors. Finally, the most foundational practice is to consciously expand your time horizon. Our brains naturally favor the present. A donut today is more appealing than the abstract concept of good health in a decade. We must fight this. When making a decision, ask yourself, how will I feel about this choice in 10 minutes, in 10 months, and in 10 years? This simple reframing, popularized by Susie Welch, forces you to weigh the immediate, first-order gratification against the long-term, second-order consequences. More often than not, the decision that serves your 10-year future self is radically different from the one that serves your 10-minute present self. Ultimately, second-order thinking is not a trick or a technique. It is a philosophy. It is a commitment to depth over shallowness, to patience over immediacy, to wisdom over cleverness. It is the recognition that we live in a world of complex, interconnected systems and that simple actions can have profound and unpredictable reactions. The first-order thinker sees the world as a series of dominoes, where one action neatly topples the next in a straight line. The second-order thinker sees the world as a spider's web. A touch in one corner sends vibrations and tensions across the entire structure, often in ways that are not immediately visible. They understand that to truly comprehend the effect of their actions, they cannot just look at the point of impact, they must watch the whole web. Choosing to cultivate this way of thinking is a choice to play a different game. While others are sprinting for short-term gains, you are positioning yourself for a marathon. While others are reacting to today's news, you are preparing for the landscape of the next decade. It is a slower, more deliberate, and more demanding path, but it is the only path that leads to durable success, robust systems, and a life built not on the shifting sands of immediate gratification, but on the bedrock of profound understanding. The quality of our lives is ultimately a reflection of the quality of our decisions. And the quality of our decisions is determined not by the speed of our thinking, but by its depth. The challenge for all of us is to stop asking only what happens next, and to start asking with relentless curiosity, and then what?